Hey there, good morning everyone. Happy Friday to you and a very happy new year to all of you. This morning I'm reflecting on the attributes of God, which I've shared a little bit on here before. But I'm reading in Romans 8, in verse 29 in the Message translation. It says, God knew what he was doing from the very beginning. He decided from the outset to shape the lives of those who love him along the same lines as the life of his Son. The Son stands first in the line of humanity restored. We see the original and intended shape of our lives there in him. You know, among the many attributes of God, there are there's an essence of his being that he carries alone. He alone has those qualities, characteristics, attributes. And then there are other parts of his being, essences of his being, that we are meant to follow after, emulate, be more like him. We are, after all, made in the image of God. Christ reflects the image of God. And I'm thinking about where we often encounter challenges in our lives, I believe, are when we are more maybe trying to emulate the attributes of God that are his and his alone. Think for a minute about omnipresence in the way that we can be present and aware of everything happening all around the world simultaneously in ways that other centuries have never had before. And we can't handle it. We really can't. We were never designed or made to handle that kind of presence everywhere at once. Or omniscience, how we can literally Google anything. We have access to more information than we ever have before at any other time in history. And I think often it is a little too much for our minds to handle. We were never meant to know all the things that we know simultaneously in the way that we do, or the way that God is omnipotent, the way that God is limitless. He has no weakness. He has no limits. And sometimes we live as if we are limitless too, and how quickly we can trip ourselves up, or how much trouble we can get into living that way, because we were never designed to live without limits. We were made as weak flesh. Our bodies are frail, we're fragile. We definitely have limits. Thinking about this verse where in Romans, where it says that God decided to shape our lives along the same lines as the life of his Son. Something that I'm thinking about going into this new year that I want to encourage us all in is just think on the specifics of who is Jesus like, who is Jesus, that I want to take on more of that characteristic in my life. And so one that I'm thinking on this morning is along that idea of living with limits. Remember that as Jesus was on the earth, although he is fully God, on earth he was also fully man. I know often when I think about the time Jesus spent on earth, I have an easier time reflecting on how he still operated and retained all of his, godlikeness being on earth. And it's harder for me to remember and keep in mind all the ways that Jesus was also fully man on earth. But yet I think this is important for us to remember, because it's an example for me to follow as a limited human being. We see Jesus fully God and fully man. We see him living and operating within his limits. So things, for example, like we see Jesus over and over again retreating from the crowds and going off to a quiet place to find rest, to find communion with God, Just he and he alone with his Father. We see that as an exercise of, laying a boundary to say, I need rest. I need time away from people. I need to refill my own cup. We see Jesus modeling his own limits in that sense very well for us. And tell you what, if there's anything I know I struggle with, it is in getting too busy, overcommitting myself. Even toward things that are very good things, trying to be helpful, trying to serve and, be loving toward other people and, just taking care of the needs around me. And those are all very good things. But yet I still have limits. You still have limits. You and I cannot do, meet all the needs that there are in the world to meet. We also need to find rest. And man, if I could just encourage us all to taste and see no rest in a more experiential way this year than you ever have. Practice Sabbath, practice rest, practice getting alone with the Lord, practice doing nothing from time to time, and embrace the ways that Jesus actually modeled that for us as well. Be encouraged today, friends, as you're going into a new year. You and I, we don't have to do everything that there is to do. We can find space for rest in our souls and be more conformed into the likeness of Jesus as we do so. And have a great Friday.